This is Bharat FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
ये है भारत FM.
बजेगा भारत, झूमेगा भारत.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Storytellers Cafe, and I'm your host, Usha Venkatraman here. I truly thank each and every one of you who make it a point to attend Storytellers Cafe. It used to be weekly before, now we have it once in a quarter, or not once in a quarter, bi monthly, and sometimes once a month. Right? There is too much of Zoom fatigue. So, welcome back to Storytellers Cafe, the number one storytelling podcast show on Bharat FM, a Cincinnati based radio station. Thank you for choosing to listen to Storytellers Cafe, to listen, learn, and enjoy. You know that I enjoy these episodes as much as you do, as I get to sit down with friends, familiar faces, storytellers whom I've known for years. And it's a pleasure to bring these fascinating people on the screen, and so that the viewers, you, can experience their magic and stories. As you know, Storytellers Cafe has made footprints right from down under Australia to Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and of course India, then to Dubai, Doha, Qatar. We've also been to United Kingdom, and of course traveled to the United States, and we've had guests from all around the world, and they are all Indians, and I'm so grateful for such wonderful storytellers. Today's guest is someone, a dear friend of mine, whom I've known for over a decade. And it's my privilege and pleasure to bring her onto the studios today so that, you can get to meet her and experience her magic. Now, this is the month of May. May is named after the Roman goddess Maya, who oversaw the growth of plants. Let's celebrate this gorgeous month of May on Storytellers Cafe. The sun is warm, the birds are chirping, the flowers are blooming, and the garden is growing. And in some parts of India, the sun is scorching. Nevertheless, we love to listen to stories. My guest today is Lavanya Srinivas from Chennai, India. Born and raised in a literary family, nurtured by the fragrance of the native soil, the sights and sounds of the Marina Beach and the Parthasarathi temple in today's Chennai, Lavanya grew up to be a postgraduate from the Presidency College with a diploma in linguistics from Madras University and a certificate in German from Max Mueller Bhavan, Goethe Institute, Chennai. Lavanya is a certified soft skills trainer from JNTU, Hyderabad. She moved to Vishakhapatnam after marriage. The natural beauty of the city of destiny only made her long for her creative pursuits and recognize her deep sensibilities and aesthetics. With Telugu and Tamil as her two eyes, I quote Lavanya here, she can see, hear, and smell arts, culture, and heritage wherever they are. She speaks the language of storytelling. So there you are. A communication and leadership coach, professional storyteller, and mentor, Lavanya has carved a niche for herself in the learning and development industry with the emerging landscape of emotional intelligence and expressive arts therapy. A theatre practitioner, translator, teacher, trainer, and transformation coach. She dons these various hats. She's been donning it for well over 3 decades. Lavanya has found that there is a common thread that runs through all her roles till date, and that is the power of storytelling. Lavanya is the founder of Alice Guter, the Leadership Academy, Vishakhapatnam. She is also the founder director of Katha Kamamishu, Center for Professional Development and Personal Excellence. She is the founder and managing trustee of the Katha Kshetra Trust, Chennai. Lavanya also is a guest faculty in storytelling and narratives at NIFT Chennai, NIFT. She is the lead consultant at Catharsis, the Cultural and Narrative Intelligence Center. Without further ado, my friends, let me get Lavanya Srinivas onto our studios. Hello, Lavanya, Namaskaram. Welcome to Storytellers Cafe.
Hello, Usha. Thank you so much for having me over. Namaskaram, Namaskar, Vanakkam, and Namaskara. Vandanam again. Yeah.
Wonderful. Lavanya, you're looking so beautiful. I love that ikat sari that you're wearing. It. So that's from Hyderabad, right?
Um, Usha, thanks
Uh-huh.
for talking about it because this is Ikat, yes, indeed, but this is from Orissa.
Okay.
There are,
Okay.
different Ikat weaves in India, one from Orissa, one from Hyderabad, and the other one from Gujarat. So,
That's right.
yeah. So this is the transition, like from Madras. Once I got married, my in-laws are from Orissa, Bhubaneswar.
Oh, now that brings me to the origin. Let's see, how did Lavanya Srinivas, the storyteller, emerge? What is your katha? What is your story behind the storyteller? We are,
Yeah.
waiting with bated breath to listen to your story.
Thank you, Usha. But I believe that each one of us is a storyteller. We are all storytellers, and in fact, the world is made not of atoms alone, but of the elements of the story. Yeah. So, yes, we all have a story, just like the sari, which has a story. You got me right. I wanted to tell my story of, it's been 35 years since I got married, and this sari was bought before my marriage. Okay, in one of the exhibitions in Chennai, the creative city, erstwhile Madras. So, and this is called the Orissa view of Pusapalli, I think they say. This ikat, which like a chessboard, it is, with predominantly black and pink, deep reddish pink. So we can connect with everything through a story, the story behind, yes. So, and I'm glad that you had the same connect, you made my day when you spoke about the sari first, because we do choose a bit of our attire, be it the accessories or the sari or whatever that we wear. As storytellers, Usha, you know best that we try to connect these small elements which connect the audience, the listener to, and sets the background. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you have introduced me. I was born, and though my mother tongue is Telugu, I was born and brought up in Chennai near Parthasarathi Temple. And so you know how it is. Tamil and Telugu, both like it's the having the wonderful advantage of two mothers. Like Krishna, Devaki, and Yashoda. So pampered to the core, I suppose. And as you once again referred to my lineage, I need to thank, and I'm deeply indebted to my family, where my paternal grandfather was one of the twin poets in Telugu at the Asthanam of the Pithapuram Raja near Kakinada of Andhra Pradesh. So my father came away to Chennai and to Madras for studies, and he settled here, and we were all born and raised here. And I was somebody who didn't want to, who loved Madras so much, the Marina Beach and the Parthasarathi Temple, and such a, they call Kupasta Mandukam, like the frog in a well. I didn't want to leave the place and go anywhere, especially after marriage. And as destiny has, the city of destiny, Vishakhapatnam, beckoned me. My husband, who's from Telugu again, but like me, born and raised in Orissa, we got married, and his posting was in Vishakhapatnam, so we moved there. And that's when I started loving Madras even more. I was worried that I'm leaving the place, and that I loved most. I didn't want to go anywhere else. But there I went, and I started, um, enjoying it even more. Maybe a nostalgia, you can call it. So I could see stories everywhere, the connect. When I went to Vishakhapatnam to the beach, I could connect with the Marina Beach. When I went up the Simhachalam temple, I could, connect with the Patsari temple nearby. The cuisine, everything, like there were parallels, and soon kind of, having children, in-laws, we brought them from Bhubaneswar, and life kind of took over. And all along I have been doing something or other, though I kept the family front as my priority. My husband was with the State Bank, and we were traveling with transfers and all that. But at the same time, I was doing these leave vacancy teacher kind of thing, or doing a bit of drama with the Tamil club there, local club, where I was the protagonist in Singapore Singari, and there was one more play that I did, Malaysia Mapillai. These kind of things. So that was a beautiful experience to get started. Um, yeah, and then from Vishakhapatnam, I was teaching in Satyasai Vidya Vihar, and then in another school, Shiv Shivani. And then when I moved to Rajahmundry, that is where I discovered the storyteller in me. I think we can pause here because I tend to talk a lot. So you tell me what you want to listen to.
No, you can't stop midway, at Rajamundry, because everyone is wondering what happened to that. If we could fast forward, you
Yes.
discovered the storyteller in you. And how did this unfurl? Because I strongly believe that all of us have this latent talent in us. It's just waiting for the right moment to unfurl or come out. Sometimes it remains within, and sometimes it's given, it's aired out and then it's brought out. So if you could just
Yeah.
I know that you are I met you over 10 years back, Lavanya. I know that you were instrumental in the Chennai storytelling scene, and it was just coming up. And you were very much part of the Chennai storytellers tribe. And I don't know how active the tribe is, because Chennai and Bangalore are the two cities, twin cities, where storytellers really thrive, and there is so much of culture. And we all know that, and the two cities has really been an inspiration for all the others in India. So can you quickly just fast forward and tell us how did you, completely establish yourself
So,
as a professional teller?
yes. When I told you about Rajahmundry, it was my experience as an English teacher, where I found that's a very important milestone in my life and my storytelling journey. Because as a teacher, I had this advantage where the catalyst, the founder of that school, gave me the opportunity and the freedom to be my own. So I used to conduct these English classes outside the classroom after lunch, because the children used to feel sleepy, and they used to be a little bored normally, so I used to pick up a English textbook from some other class. Suppose I was teaching fourth standard, I would pick up a storybook, I mean rather English text from fifth or from third. So catch the children unawares and read out a story from there, and that kept them, alert, and they would sit like this in the classroom. This wide eyes, the open mouth, and the sharp ears. That is the beautiful image that you get when you think of stories. And that is the point where learning also happens, Usha, as we know. So that is where I found the common thread. In the classroom, those who were slow learners and those who were naughty were appreciated in the classroom. They came to the front, started reading from the textbook, doing very well in all subjects. And then, that was the moment that told me, yes, stories have the power, not just in life, but in the classroom as well. And from
That's
there, yeah, from there, I went back to Vishakhapatnam, and there my journey of a trainer started, teaching English, spoken English in Kendriya Vidyalaya and in Quest Soft Skills Training Institute. And even there, I have this uh, kind of peculiar habit of talking about the past, maybe senile or whatever it is, quote some instances or draw from our lives or from some movie I saw, and whatever I would tell them. And then those, especially in the rural backgrounds, people come there to learn English, to get a job, to get a career. And when I talk about these things, they used to feel the connect. They said, okay, so it happens to others as well. And I spoke particularly about these places where I felt a little shy, where I felt a little lost. Those kind of instances I would, without my knowledge, I just brought them up and spoke about it and how, what happened next, things like that. Then they felt confident. Okay, we too have hope. Yeah, we too have something to look forward to. I guess that kind of worked magic. And from Vishakhapatnam, I moved to Hyderabad. That's where I was picked up as one of the soft skill trainers in JNTU. That was the first and last time Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University in Hyderabad had the soft skills program.
okay.
Industry, yeah, that was the time when Hyderabad was booming with the cyber city, and IT industry was really looking at Hyderabad and India to start off the back office practices. And the industry had approached the university to start this course. And bigwigs like at those days, Satyam, Infosys, and others, they wanted to pick up people from all walks of life, train them according to the needs of the industry, and then send them to colleges, especially the English departments, where the English department would be sending their representatives, and we had to train them to train the students for placement.
Oh,
So, yeah, the university, out of 300 applications, picked up 30 people, and I was glad that I was one of them. It was a 6-month course, and a lovely interaction between the industry and the university with the hands-on experience with the modules. We were taken to the IT thing, and then I moved to Invensys, an IT company where I was in charge of the learning and development department. But there in training, I soon realized that maybe I wasn't cut out for the computer scenario, because I felt very peculiar when you had to switch on the computer to be in touch and interact with the person sitting next to you, and all the doors and windows closed and lights switched on and ACs put on, uh, the natural being cut off. These kind of things kind of made me very uncomfortable, and I couldn't stay long over there. I came out. And training, another thing I noticed that was people and the employees were already busy with their work. So when they were just sent to the training room for soft skills training, their mind was on the deliverables. So there I tried a bit of bringing in stories, so that stories in training, okay, there is something interesting. It was like that. Once again, from the students to the adults, putting their heads to the front, their shoulders coming up like this, maybe sitting like this, and wow, okay, wide eyed and things like that. So that gave me a little bit of inspiration. But as I said, and then my husband's transfer to Mumbai again, less than 1 year. I had to go there in Mumbai. And there was this company called Paradigm Shift in Chennai, which approached me for this leadership and soft skills training. And I was moving from Mumbai to Hyderabad to Chennai to Delhi because my children were there and these kind of things. So that gave me an opportunity to try my hand into, this HR and trainings. And that's where, once again, I discovered the power of stories. Usha. So
Wonderful.
not just as a pedagogic tool, but as a training tool as well. We know the power of stories and storytelling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then my travel off and on to Chennai, that being my, Poranda, and so when I came back to Chennai, I was going, my daughter was here, and that was the time I came across, I was already doing some translations, I was teaching a little bit of language. Yeah, and in Hyderabad, I was also the resource person for an international resource center based in US, where they approached me to train the expatriates, for a comfortable transition. The families come down to Hyderabad for the husband or the wife's main career, and how the family has to adjust with maybe the domestic help, the drivers, and the children in the school. Yeah. So I started teaching Telugu to them through English. And Hyderabad was a wonderful place because there is a bit of Hindi also there. So we have to use the Telugu, Hindi, Urdu mixture. So I was using that language and talking to them along the way, learning the Hyderabadi lingo because I was new to Hyderabad, right? From Chennai, which was a typical conservative Tamil place, from there to Andhra Pradesh. From there, and Andhra had this geographical advantage of being in the center of, closer to the north. But then not Urdu, it was more of Hindi, Sanskrit. From there, I was thrown into this Urdu mixture of Telangana Telugu, which was fascinating to me. And through this institute, I kind of upskilled myself as a language trainer. And from there, when I came back to Madras, that is today's Chennai, I started realizing, there is a potential for stories and storytelling because I was my helping my aunt who was a translator with. Okay, I think I'll keep that aside for the next this thing. So I
Yeah.
will stop here. Okay.
Yes, Lavanya, isn't it interesting that there are stories within stories? I mean, stories never end. That reminds me of that. You would know this story. Once there was a sultan, and his wife was ailing. She became frail and thin, and he was so worried. And one day he saw his servant and his wife. His wife was robust and healthy, and she was laughing. So he called his servant and said, "What do you feed her?" So he said, "I feed her the meat of the tongue." So the Sultan called for his chefs and said, "Get all the meats, all the different tongues, and then feed. Let's have a repast." But nothing changed. His wife grew weaker, frailer, and thinner. Then he called the servant and said, "Let's exchange. Let your wife come and live in the palace, and I'll send my wife to you." And a few days later, the Sultan saw that his wife had grown healthy and there was a pink glow to her face. So he called her and asked her, "What meat of the tongue did he feed you?" So she said, "No, it was not the meat of the tongue as in food. It was he fed me stories, poems, songs." And so there you are. Our life is full of stories and songs and poetry. And that is what it should be, right? So that
Absolutely.
brings me, I know that you are a wonderful storyteller, Lavanya. I can see the beautiful Kamishi Bai behind you, as well as the coward that's behind you, which looks so Wonderful. I will show it to the audience by taking myself off the screen. But before that, would you like to tell us a story and then we can engage in conversation?
Oh, yes, Osha, that was again kind of spot on, because the meat of the tongue, I guess, is the tongue, the mother tongue. Yeah. The language, the spoken word of whichever language it might be, especially in the context of our Indian, lives. We are cultures, and we are multicultural, multilingual nation. So the mother tongue kind of very beautifully brings you more flavors. Yeah. And obviously, we have a rich tradition of stories and oral storytelling as well. And that reminds me of the Mother's Day. That's just, around the corner. And mother is the first, not just the first teacher, but the first storyteller as well, who, like what you just said, who teaches and who tells stories through songs, through poetry, through lullabies, and whatever, those beautiful moments are created by the mother, setting up the context. So, yeah, maybe I will just tell you a small story that I remembered from the one more thing, Usha. The Northeast is so full of stories. I mean, every culture has its own story. Every state has a rich tradition of oral storytelling. But there are certain places in every country which are full of this small folklore, where they try to connect the everyday life incidents and, the nature. These kind of stories really attracted me a lot. So, once upon a time, the world was not like this. All the birds didn't have colors, they were all white in color. The parrot, the peacock, the eagle, the dove, the pigeon, the sparrow, whatever you may look at, the myna, they all were white. How boring, right? That's what even the birds thought, especially the crow. They were all friends, of course, beautifully sitting, chatting, and telling stories to each other, perhaps. But one day, the crow and the peacock got together. The crow was excited, said, "Oh, wow, peacock, look at this beautiful garden. Such lovely flowers, so fragrant and so full of color. How lovely this world would have been had we also had some color, just like those beautiful, colorful flowers." The peacock also said, "Oh, yeah, my dear crow, that's a good observation. How I wish we had some colors too. But who will give us these colors? The flowers are very lucky. We aren't." Then the crow said, "Oh, my dear friend, let's do something about it. Not just crib about why we don't have colors." And the crow is smart and clever. The thirsty crow story, right? In the same way, the crow thought again, "Oh, yeah, I have a brilliant idea. Let's, let's get some colors and paint each other. And then we will have beautiful colors." Peacock loved this idea. Said, "Yes, let us quickly go and get some colors. But who will paint us?" Then the crow said, "Don't worry, my dear friend. I will paint your feathers and you color me. And then you know how it is. We will be colorful." Peacock agreed. "Yes, yes, let's do that," he said. And then he flew and flew and flew, the crow. Got some beautiful colors. Some beautiful colors from the flowers, some from the mud, some from some twigs, and I don't know from where he got all those colors, brought them, kept, and tried and made some powder, mixed everything, and started painting the feathers of the peacock. Oh, the glorious colors. In the neck, the long, beautiful, slender neck of the peacock. He painted the green, a bit of blue, and then just loved the headgear of the peacock. Quickly picked up some colors, a little bit of gold, little bit of purple, little bit of everything over there. And the peacock was happy. Just opened his feathers like this, and quickly the crow, so creative was he, that he picked up the colors and each feather and each one started painting. And our peacock felt very, very happy, very proud. Oh, he looked like this, he looked like that. Ah, I'm so beautiful, I'm so beautiful. Started singing. And then the crow went on painting, painting, painting in beautiful colors. And the peacock opened the feathers like this and the neck. And then there he got the reflection in water and couldn't stop gushing. Oh, how beautiful I am, said. How beautiful. And he was in a hurry to go and show it off to the whole world. The crow said, wait, 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 my dear peacock. Don't run away. The peacock said, wait a minute. I will go and show my beautiful colors to the whole world. But the crow said, no, no, 1 second, what about me? And then the peacock said, just a minute. And he picked up, yes, I remember my promise. He went, picked up whatever color he had and poured it on the crow. Alas, that was just plain black. And that's how we have the plain black crow today and the colorful peacock. So, Shaya.
What a lovely, lovely story. You really painted a, vivid picture of the birds in all their hues and colors and pigmentation. Lovely, lovely story. Properly befitting the month of May, which is, everything is blooming, the sun is warm, everything is growing, the plants are green. It's spring in some many parts of the world, but it's summer in India, but it's full of life. And we are getting back to normalcy, and hopefully a brighter future lies ahead of us. Thank you, Lavanya, for that wonderful story. um, Lavanya, you also mentioned that you also are into a language coach, and you did talk about your stint in Hyderabad of training the expats into learning the native tongue so that they could live kind of a life where they wouldn't have to struggle. And I
Yeah.
know this was predominant in Chennai and, of course, Hyderabad and Bangalore, because a lot of IT industries opened up initially. And this was the norm. I know many of them had this kind of a career in kind of easing the expats into the community way of life in that region. You also mentioned about your stint as a soft skills trainer. That also you spoke about in the IT industry and everything. But the storytelling, is there a storytelling association in Chennai that you could talk to us about? We know that there is the Chennai Storytelling Festival, but is there something parallel that runs in Chennai? Or is that the only one that all the tellers align themselves to?
Okay. Yeah. So again, when I got back to Chennai, I went from Madras. I came back to Chennai. You know, the name, the change, just like Bombay and Mumbai. So I came back. When I came back, I was helping my aunt who was translating for Tulika Publishers. She was translating into Telugu the English stories. And I would carry her translations and deliver it at Tulika. And her handwriting being very small letters, they had sometimes, the typesetters had some issues, and I would help them out. And in between, unfortunately, she was diagnosed with some ailment and she could not translate. And she was hospitalized and she needed rest. So that was the time I got an opportunity to translate, for Tulika. Once again, my tryst with stories, enjoying the beauty of the native tongue, the vivid imageries of the stories, and the childlike enthusiasm and passion in stories that I found, strength and enjoyment. That, and then when Tulika approached me, they said, "Why don't you translate when your aunt is not well? Can you help us because we have some?" Oh, of course. I wasn't very sure, but I did take up the challenge. I would say it's a challenge, Usha. As we know, translation is a very tricky business. You know, it may sound very easy, but the native tongue has to come in. Yeah, the meaning should not be distorted. At the same time, very understandable and enjoyable, because the spirit of the story needs to be carried through. It was like a tight walk, on a tight rope walk. Yeah, but I enjoyed it all the same, and that was my entry into translations and children's literature. And then, very a couple of years perhaps, and after that I found that my aunt got well, but she was getting into the slowly depressed state. Then I told Tulika, I said, "Please give her back the translation. I'm sure she will get well." Just like you told the story of that queen, right, who got well because of the stories. I felt my aunt would find her love for life and come back if she sat with the stories and translation. And indeed, yes, she did get back to herself. And she was a lecturer in German too. So that again, the love for language that we were talking about, just like the love for stories, that is the life giver for every person. So we all heal, we all kind of find our own selves, discover ourselves through stories. And then when this happened, I come back to that storytelling part. One day in 2009, this my Tulika thing started around 2005, 6, or something like that. And in 2009, one of those visits, I saw in the newspapers about a storytelling workshop, a short 2-hour workshop or whatever it is, announced. And when I inquired, it turned out to be Eric Miller's. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, wow, storytelling and a workshop." And that was a new phrase for me. For a country kind of person from Vizag, because I was away from the cosmopolitan or the culturally this thing of Chennai and other places. In Vizag, that was not yet heard of. Though we were all using it from quite some time. The Western concept, I think, they rediscovered the storytelling art in different areas. And in this workshop, I met Eric, and I remember asking him, "I do this, but I need a certificate." And he said, "A certificate? No, I don't give certificates." I said, "I'm very much interested in coming and attending to the workshop." But somewhere along the way, I felt a strong feeling that with a certificate, I will be able to, connect the dots. And perhaps in Telugu, once again, we say, Shankanlo poste tirtham autundi. In the sense, you have the sangu, the shank, yeah, conch. When you
Yes.
pour water, it's plain water, but when you pour it in the conch, it becomes tirtham, the holy water. So we all need that little bit of certification or whatever that we may think. And I said, look, I do use stories, I know the power of stories, but perhaps here is something that I need to add on and learn also. So that's how I met Eric. The 2 hour workshop that we had, I connected very well with the idea, and it was an interactive session, of course. And then Eric was kind of finding his feet here in Chennai, and he had a couple of opportunities. I remember being a part of his core team with the Prakriti Foundation to teach, the art of poetry and appreciation of language. And we did a couple of workshops in schools, and the school, the KFI, Krishnamurti Foundation. And then I also kind of worked with him at the music department in Madras University. Pramila Gurumurthy, who is a wonderful musician and Harikatha exponent. She did great research on the Harikatha art form, and she, believed in the power of storytelling, and she had invited Eric. And Eric has the idea and everything, but the language and the local flavor. So that's where I pitched in all these kind of areas, and we did a workshop together, and I helped him, rather, facilitate it, while he was the main lead trainer. So this is how off and on, when I was traveling, it was happening. And one very milestone, once again, in the storytelling journey is our meeting at Anita Ratnam's house. The contemporary dance artist at Anita Ratnam, a
Yes.
wonderful
Yes.
creative dancer that she is. So we were almost about 25, 30 of us, I guess. People from, at that time, there was no Chennai Storytellers or Storytelling Club or Bangalore Storytellers. I don't think so, but people from all walks of life. And one person that I remember is Shan Shanmugasundaram, who was also there, whom I met later at Chennai Storytellers. So we met on the lawns of Anita Ratnam's house, and we started, Eric again was instrumental in putting together the Chennai Storytelling Association. But, again, it fizzled out because it was like that. Nothing happened for a couple of years, excepting the small things here and there. Yeah. And then I moved to Chennai in the end of 2009, and I started my own independent work at the Telugu department and the Tamil department, because I did my diploma in linguistics from Tamil department of Madras University under Por Kodandaraman, the great professor of Tamil, head of the department. So people from Sanskrit department and philosophy department, we were all students there under him, and I was in touch with them. So doing stories of Vaishnavism, of Shaivism, and these kind of, because the narratives, that Indian narratives that we had in small stories, the upakathas from epics, and the traditions, all that we could connect with the thread of the stories. So as storyteller, I found out that I was a sutradhar. You're a great puppeteer. I know that. So I feel as storytellers, each one of us is a puppeteer who kind of, yes, it's our fingertips, if you may call it. And with each one's creativity, with each one's strength, we internalize the story and find. And then along the journey, I found great storytellers and passionate storytellers like Asha Sampath, Pooja Giri, and the first Chennai Storytelling Festival that Eric had at the Goethe Institute, I think Kamini Ramachandran from Singapore. Because that disconnect happened, I was traveling I was not from Chennai. So off and on, I would do that. But when I moved back the end of 2009 and 10, that's when Eric's institute, World Storytelling Institute, became a little more regular, and there were people passing out. And I found that there was a wonderful tribe of storytellers who could, get together and started something like, and then of course, I think Jiva Raghunath's Kadai Galata, Under the Alamaram happened.
Yes, yes,
Yes. And then the lovely camaraderie of storytelling, the common love brought us all together. And Asha was the one, Asha Sampath, who was a guest, I think, earlier on your, yeah,
yes, yes.
Storytellers Cafe. So we all got together. And the first core group, I wasn't there, I must confess. I was not a part of the core group. Just the first session had a few people like Pooja Giri, then Devjani, Alvin. We know them, so I'm just mentioning the names.
Right.
Kavita, Vasuki, perhaps, and then I came in. I felt very connected with the idea, and we started having this beautiful monthly meets where we would interact. And Chennai Storytellers was created to help people find a platform, a friendly space where they wouldn't be judged, but at the same time have the opportunity to hone their skills, peer learning. That was a wonderful time. And we worked together in different places in each one's capacity at the Anna Centenary Library. And then I, for instance, started my Katha Kamamishu and collaborated with the Hindu for car-free Sundays on the beach, Elliot's Beach. So independently,
Lovely.
yeah.
Very, very nice, Lavanya. I mean, you've really given us a complete picture of the storytelling scene in Chennai. You know, it started way back in 2008, the early beginnings, and then how it's flourishing today. All these names are familiar to me. You know, Asha Sampath, Jiva Raghunath has been a guest on Storytellers Cafe. For those who've been watching Storytellers Cafe, if you recall, she was my first guest, I would say, on Storytellers Cafe when we began. So uh, that's wonderful, Lavanya. That brings me to stories. Like you rightly said, it's Mother's Day on the 8th. This Sunday, we celebrate Mother's Day, but also it's also Rabindranath Tagore's birth anniversary. And would you have a story for us on Tagore? Or something, you have this wonderful Kamishi Bai behind you. Is there something that you're going to unfold and show us some pictures and stories?
Yeah. Yes, Usha, thanks for reminding me about the Rabindranath Tagore's birthday. Because as we all know, 7th is his birthday technically, but he was born in the month of Baishakhi. And this year, we in the Indian calendar, it doesn't always coincide with the Gregorian calendar. So this year, 2022, it falls on May 9th. In between, it was falling very often on May 8th or May 9th. But May 9th is very dear to me because it also happens to be my father's birthday. Just as the Mother's Day, is on May 8th, the first, yeah, yeah, that is first Sunday. Okay, so May 9th is Father's Day to me, and great poet and Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. He is a master storyteller, as we all know, with his visuals, with his verse, with his words. He created beautiful imageries. And when we talk about stories, the Kabuli Wala, the beautiful story of the little girl comes to our mind, and many storytellers have shared that. But I would just touch upon this story which touched my heart, Usha, which is called Shubha. The protagonist, a little girl in the story, her name is Subhashini. Ironically, Subhashini, as we all know, means one who speaks beautifully and good words. Unfortunately, this little girl was having a speech impairment problem. She couldn't listen properly, she couldn't speak properly. I wouldn't be telling the full story, but then I would like to bring it to the forefront, because my idea of storytelling is just like you and few others who look at storytelling as a tool to bring out the lesser known tales, the untold stories, the unspoken, and the biases, taboos in the society, things like that. So Rabindranath Tagore speaks of the social time, the context at that time. Things haven't changed much in terms of finding a groom or whatever, not in the urban India, but certainly in the rural and many small parts of India. Still, girls find it difficult to find a good match, and parents feel that getting girls married is their biggest priority in life. One such story is the Shubha, where the little girl is one of the three sisters, and the two sisters are married off with great difficulty, of course. Tagore very beautifully describes the setting, the context. As you know, for a story, the story arc runs like this, with the context, the location of the story, maybe geographical, maybe social, maybe historical context, and then the arc moves on to the course of the story, the everyday happenings. Once upon a time, in the small village in West Bengal, near a river, on the banks of a river. So, life used to happen like this. Every day, this girl would get up, she would play with her sisters. It is like that. The story arc moved on. And one day, it wasn't the same. So that is where the arc reaches the conflict, the problem. The two sisters got married, and it was the third sister who needed to get married. But as it is, getting girls married is very difficult. And when this girl, being a disabled child in the sense who couldn't speak, who couldn't hear, it was a bigger challenge for the parents. So she was made to sit down, and fortunate enough, you know, to get married, because those days girls were expected to be shy, to be, coy and things like that in the arrangement time, the marriage lookings, they, funnily we refer to it. So at that time, this girl was married off, and on the 10th day or 11th day, sometime the husband discovers that the wife cannot speak, and she is sent back. And that is the story which comes to me when I think of Rabindranath Tagore. While the beautiful national anthem, his love, his patriotic heart, his love for the country, for arts, for literature, everything stands first. But I take this opportunity given by you to introduce this less known story called Shubha. And I wouldn't tell you the ending of the story, for as storytellers, we believe in open endedness, rather telling the moral of the story. You get only one. When you leave it open and ask the audience, we get so many more perspectives. In the same way, I I leave this story without an ending for the audience to explore the beauty of the story and discover Rabindranath Tagore's new heroine, rather lesser known heroine, if I may say so. And
Thank you, Lavanya. What a beautiful story. I haven't heard this. I'm also one among three sisters, and we've all had arranged marriages. So I understand what Tagore was referring to, because in the 70s and the early 80s, this was the norm in a typically conservative South Indian family. So, and beautiful, aren't storytellers cultural activists, social activists, through stories in a very non invasive way, beautifully. And I think Rabindranath brought that to the
yes,
fore. And I'm sure he deserved many more Nobel laureates, no many more accolades, because for the kind of work that he has put out for us, and has inspired so many people after that. So this is a beautiful story. What a lovely story. And that's what I love about Storytellers Cafe is I get to listen to some stories that I've never heard before. And then that goes into my little book, or my pillow of stories, and they come back and knock on my head and say, "Oh, did you remember what Lavanya told you about Shubha?" That. And then I would open up, and then, now I'll do that. I will go and read this story and find if it has a definitive ending or an ending left for us readers to guess. And I love such stories. Yes,
Yeah,
go on.
yeah, Usha, here I would be on the other side of the table now. For you had given me a story of Meenakshi, again set in the same backdrop of, marriage and coffee, the awesome aroma of coffee, the South Indian filter coffee with the cockroach marriage that I can never forget. That's what, bonded us together at the CSF at Alliance Francaise. Yeah. You
Yes,
told
it was
me
2013. That's right. Yeah.
2013. So our journey, we keep just like the passengers, we keep meeting at the stations, getting off, getting on. The voyage continues. Yeah, sometimes it's the journey on in the sea, sometimes on road, sometimes high up in the air. It's like that. And yes, indeed, wherever it is and however it is, it's a beautiful journey, Usha. And we are, as you rightly said, cultural activists. We are artists. First, let me tell you, I founded this Kathakshetra Trust to make storytelling to be recognized as an art form, firstly. Call storytellers as artists, contemporary artists, perhaps. Yeah. Because storytelling is the renaissance of storytelling has taken place in all parts across the globe. And storytelling needs to be a paid, a profession
Absolutely.
because yeah, because people take it for granted. Mothers tell story, I tell story, you tell story. Yes, true, but then there is a science behind that. There is a craft behind that, and there is an artist behind that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Lavanya, you can't stop a storyteller from sharing a story. Actually,
yep,
this reminds me of a very, very short tale which I heard here a couple of years back when I was also invited at the Stock Exchange Storytelling Festival. Or I think it was a literature or a storytelling festival, actually. So the keynote speaker was Gaur Gopal Das of ISKCON. And he
yeah,
narrated this very short tale that once Picasso was walking the streets of Paris when he met a rich American friend of his. So the American friend said, Picasso, my friend, would you just sketch my wife's portrait? Just do that. So he said, of course, why not? And he had his sheets, the paper, and then his pencil. He took it out and they sat down in the shade of some trees and benches. And he quickly drew under 2 or 3 minutes. And he said, here you are, my friend. So the friend thanked him, was about to leave. And Picasso said, friend, $10,000 for the sketch. So the American friend said, what? You got to be kidding me. 10,000 for something that you drew in 2 minutes? So Picasso turned to him and said, yes, but it took me 20 years to draw this in 2 minutes. So I'm asking you to pay for that craft.
oh yeah,
Similarly, for us storytellers, it is the craft that we have crafted over years. The story might be just for about 5 minutes, but the right story which fits the right uh, nook, or that, like you say that, this cap fits the bottle. The story has to fit that particular uh, place or particular subject or a theme that you're talking about. So how do you do that? And that takes crafting, and that
yeah,
is why you charge. So I go around and telling this story at the end of my tale when somebody is kind of deciding to kind of talk to me and say, oh, can we reduce the price? Can we do this? So I end it with this story, and they very silently hand over my fee without arguing about it or negotiating.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Usha. That brings me, I know time, I'm running out of time. So I would like to tell you
Yes,
that other
yes,
passion is bringing in Indian arts. And like you mentioned, I may not be able to draw those beautiful lines and create pictures, but I do rely upon the skills and the beautiful art of our artisans, where like Coward and Patachitra and Cherial, these kind of painters. And from time immemorial, storytelling was a collaborative art, Usha, as you know.
yes,
There
yes.
was That is why generally there are families moving from place to place. So someone draws, someone, paints, and someone sings, and someone plays the instrument. And that is the beautiful, be it Jatra of Bengal, or Villupattu of Tamil Nadu, or Tol Bommalata of Andhra Pradesh. These, I just love the richness of the traditional arts. And we, as urban and contemporary artists, I would like to call ourselves, at least, let us call ourselves artists,
Of course.
contemporary,
Of course.
yeah, contemporary artists, storytelling artists, to bring others into this collaborative art landscape and tell stories much more beautifully. You may not be able to dance, you may not be able to sing, but you can bring in those artists or talk about them. Not just India, storytelling and stories and human life is not curtailed by borders. Stories are, beyond, they break boundaries, they bridge gaps. And Kamishibai is one such storytelling art which has been practiced by the Japanese from time immemorial. And they rediscovered it during the World War, I think in the 1930s, World War or something, sometime. There they used Kamishibai. And then now I find that storytellers need to look at Kamishibai not just as a pedagogic or a storytelling tool, but to heal, because that's what people did in the World War time. And Kamishibai is brought on cycles, and the storytellers, to capture the attention of the parents and the children, that they would buy their toffees, they would bring this. Can I get up and show the Kamishibai to you,
Please,
Usha?
please do. Please. Sure.
So this is what Kamishibai is all about. So it is a box like this, yeah, which has, which opens like this, upwards like this, and there is a door with a latch. You open it like this, two doors. And then you have these pictures, the story cards, yeah, the story cards. And these story cards, again, I can't draw, but I take the help of artists. This is a story of the birds that were white in the beginning. I told you in the beginning of our session that small story, when once upon a time all the
Yes,
birds were white
yes,
in color.
yes.
So you remove it like this. And then again, this is an art, we just remove it and put it back, and all that needs practice. And then the crow and the peacock found a beautiful garden nearby, colorful, and they wanted to be colorful as well. And then you see what happened. Yeah, this peacock and the crow, they were chatting away, and then they started painting. The crow brought the paints and the brushes and started painting the peacock very beautifully. And you can see these colors on the peacock feathers first, bit by bit, on the feathers, on the crown, under the neck, yeah, and on the tummy. Then you see, voila, the beautiful peacock with all its splendor. and so proud and dancing and showing off the feathers. And like this, the mile dance where the dancer so beautifully opens the body language of the storyteller. So it's synonymous with the peacock. And then the proud peacock, in a hurry to show off the colors, poured the black color on the crow. See, this is how it's flattered, and that's how it is. So this is the tale. So you have story cards like this, Usha, which will be generally the kamishibai. It's called paper theater. And Japanese art, whether it is origami or whatever, is they're experts using paper. It's paper
Yes.
theater. So they have created this beautiful stage. You see, it's also called a stage.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and these story cards are created, and then finally this is the crow, the colorless peacock. And after that, when they discovered the beauty of colors, all the birds found their colors and became very, very beautiful. So this is the kind.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I just love to tell stories at the intersection of coward and kamishibai. I'll just take a moment to bring the coward.
Sure.
Yeah. So the coward again is opening into panels. Yeah. The beautiful, rich, traditional art of Rajasthan. It and look at the skill, not just the art, the skill of the carpenter, the art of the artist, the beautiful paintings, and then the coward car who sings the stories of the kings or the gods. And look at this. That is how so beautifully it is. They are generally cowards have painting of two different stories. On one side, there is Ramayana. On another side, there is Mahabharata, Krishna's story, Rama's story. So, it is the
Yes.
optimum utilization of space and bringing in the story. I just love that those ideas. And our brain also, Usha, learns in pictures and panels. It unfolds
Absolutely.
so beautifully.
Absolutely.
The narrative brain. So I
Yes.
find that we have some small cowards and kamishibais and this thing in our brains as our memories and thoughts and stories float in our heads. We kind of pull all those strings as sutradhas, bring them together and share them as stories. And somewhere along the way, the storyteller, the listener, and the characters in the story merge, and the rasanubhava is created. Yeah, and that is catharsis, which I have named my training institute for catharsis with K instead of C, where it becomes katha. As you rightly,
Lovely. Lovely.
as you,
You've brought in everything. Lavanya, I do admire the way through a 1 hour conversation in the story form, everything has been touched upon, and you have spoken to us about catharsis. And yes, I would like to end on that note that stories are very cathartic. It's healing. It's a balm to our senses, whether wounded or even whether, even if there is nothing, no wound or no scar, no bruise, but everyone enjoys a good story.
and
And
especially in the pandemic, Usha, now that we are,
yes, yes,
coming back out
yes,
into the world, we all need
absolutely,
those healing hugs of these lovely stories
absolutely,
in the lap
absolutely.
of the mother. As you said, the Mother's Day again finds its a very important role. And when you asked me about the Mother's Day, I have a small connect. As you know, we, as storytellers, we try to connect everything, and we get connected also. So we are born from the mother's womb. We are created there, and with the help of Panchabhutas, how we are uh, life comes in to the womb. We just know our lives
Yes.
from the beginning
Yes.
of the mother.
Mm.
And then, as we lead a life through the journey, we have several memories, experiences, and thoughts and feelings. And as our lives end, we go back and merge with the soil. It's a full cycle, it's a full circle. Purnasya Purnamadaya. I'm reminded of that beautiful sloka. I'll not take much time, but this is where I find the parallels between mother and the mother earth. And today's world where climate, as you rightly said, that we are activists, right? So we have a duty not only to appreciate and create awareness, but also action for protecting our environment and healing the world as well. Thank you, Usha,
Yes.
for this wonderful, wonderful opportunity. You are
Thank you.
again, yeah. I'm touched. I'm very
Not
happy.
at all. Thank you so much, Lavanya. It's been such a pleasure to have you as my guest and wonderful listening to you. And I'm sure all our listeners and those who are watching us as well as listening to us on radio from across India and outside India too. I'm sure you enjoyed. Please do drop in your comments on the Facebook. Like I said, if you missed this episode on Sunday on the 8th at 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 11:30 Eastern Time in the United States, you can always go back to Storytellers Cafe on the Facebook or on YouTube since it's archived and see this program again and again and share it with your friends and family. Please do that. Do write to us. We love to hear from you. And it's always gratifying to hear what the viewers have to say. So, Lavanya can be found on Facebook, like she says, Sorry, I just lost myself there.
Yeah.
We'll definitely drop in Lavanya's email on the post, and you can get in touch with Lavanya. And I thank you once again, Lavanya. Thank you for coming, and see you, friends, next time. Maybe a couple of weeks later, but same time, same place, and stay tuned. And that's a good night, a good day from me. Yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Usha. Bye
Yeah.
bye.